Hello, Shepherd's Well. I hope everyone is well. I hope you one are all doing well, learn from home. I'm here today to go through your English learning with you. It's Wednesday, the 24th of February, 2021. So what are we learning today? Well, today we are learning to discuss word meanings, linking them to prior knowledge. So word meanings, we're going to be looking at different vocabulary today. So hopefully you've been having a think about new vocabulary this week, and up on the screen now I've just put some vocabulary that I think might be new to some of us, and it's vocabulary that we've covered a bit this week. So our job today is discuss some of these words, make sure we understand word meaning, and maybe thinking about changing words for something that's similar. So our key vocabulary so far this week has been story map, traditional tale, character, start, middle and end, adjective, sentence, beanstalk, widow, all words that if you haven't heard yet, hopefully you will, and they'll start to make more sense. So how can we be successful today? Well, we need to listen carefully to language and think about words that have a similar meaning. Remember the new vocabulary we have learnt so far. So 2 things that we really need to do to make sure we are successful. Okay, our retrieval task today. This is the part of our lesson where we try and think back to previous learning. We try and remember it so that it really starts to sink in. So what are the main features of a narrative? Can anybody remember? Main features of a narrative. We have a start, a middle, and an end. How does a story map tell a story without including all of the events in the storybook? We just talk about the main points of the story, don't we? We don't include every single little detail. How can you identify events in a story which are more important than others? Maybe you have to look at the story overall as a whole to decide which are the most important bits to make sure you can tell that full story from beginning to end. Have a look back on your story map from yesterday and see how you achieved that. How did you make sure the main points were included without including absolutely every detail? Okay, have a look at this picture. This picture is called Top of the Beanstalk. What do you think it's called that? Have a really good look. What does this picture remind you of? Okay, so today we're going to focus on a new story, Jack and the Beanstalk. What prior knowledge do you have about this story already? Where is this story set? Do you know who the main characters are? Do you know what the main events are? Let's enjoy the story. Deep in the countryside lived a widow and her son, Jack. Their cottage was crumbling and their clothes were patched. They were very, very poor. There's 2 words in there I just wanted to check with you. Countryside. What does countryside mean? Countryside, that's a word that you might have covered in geography lessons. Countryside is the opposite to a city, and a city is where you might have lots of roads and high-rise buildings, whereas out in the countryside you'd have lots of fields and animals and not so many roads. Another word I thought I'd like to mention is widow. What's a widow? If this lady is a widow, what does that mean? It means that she no longer has her husband. Her husband's died, so she's alone without a husband. Their cottage was crumbling and their clothes were patched. They were very, very poor. They didn't have very much money. One day, Jack's mother said, "We must sell our cow. Take her to market, Jack, and bring home some gold pieces." And so he set off for town. But before Jack had got very far, he met a strange little man. "That's a fine cow," the man said. "I'll swap you 5 magic beans for her." "Magic beans?" said Jack. "Are they really magic?" "Magic they are, or chop off my bread and knit it into a jumper," croaked the little man. Magic beans. Jack couldn't wait to tell his mother. He clutched them tightly and ran all the way home. Jack's mother was furious. "We need money, not useless old beans," she cried, and she threw them out of the window in disgust. But late that night, a tiny bean sprout poked out from the ground, and then it grew and grew and grew. The next morning, the bean sprout stretched high into the sky. "The beans were magic," Jack cried. "What's at the top?" Jack climbed up, up, up the beanstalk, and at last he reached the very top. There, shimmering in the sunlight, was a magnificent castle. Just then, Jack's stomach rumbled. "I must find some breakfast," he thought, and he tapped on the castle door. The door creaked open, and a huge giantess smiled down. "Hello, Jack," she shouted up. "Please, do you have any food?" "You poor thing," boomed the giantess. "Come right in, but quickly, before the giant gets up." What a marvellous feast there was! There was an enormous loaf of bread and a gigantic jar of jam. Jack tucked in at once. But suddenly the room began to shake. Boom, boom, boom. "Goodness me," cried the giantess. "He's coming!" And she shoved Jack under a teacup to hide. Into the room stomped a big, scary, hungry giant. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman," he said. "Be alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Don't be silly, there's nobody here but us," the giantess scolded. "Now go and wash before breakfast." Jack trembled and shook. "I must leave now," he thought. He was halfway down the hall when he heard a squawk. It was a hen with bright golden feathers. "Help!" she clucked. "Set me free and I'll lay you golden eggs every morning." Jack scooped up the hen, but then he heard huge footsteps thundering after them. "Fee, fi, fo, fum," roared the giant. "I smell the blood of an Englishman." And there he is. Jack raced out of the door. He jumped and slid down the beanstalk. Down, 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 all the way back to his cottage. "Mother, quick, bring the axe," he shouted. Jack's mother swung the axe at the beanstalk. Thwack! It shuddered and shook, and then the giant came tumbling down. And that was the end of the giant. Jack hugged his mother tight. "Look what I found," he said, and he showed her the golden hen. "Oh, Jack," said his mother, "I'm so glad you're safe, and you were right about those magic beans." So Jack, his mother, and the golden hen all lived happily ever after, and with lots of golden eggs. They were never poor again. Okay, I just want you to take a few moments now to have a think. Were there any words in that story that you weren't sure about, that you didn't know what the meaning was? If there was, just jot them down in your purple book, and maybe a grown-up at home can explain what the word is. Right, we are going to read this page again. So just have a look at your page on the page that's on the screen right now. It's a double page spread. And we are just going to have a look at this page again. Look at the pictures and listen carefully to these words. What a marvellous feast. There was an enormous loaf of bread and a gigantic jar of jelly. Jack dug in at once. But suddenly the room began to shake. Boom, boom, boom. "Oh my goodness," cried the giantess. "He's coming!" And she shoved Jack under a teacup to hide. So, can you think of another word instead of boom what could we say instead of boom that still means to make a loud noise, but it's just a different word? Can you think of one? Just take a few moments. Now, your main activity today, you are going to rewrite the text from this double-page spread. You should try to change as many words as you can for a different word with the same meaning. For example, I've changed "what a marvellous feast" for "what a wonderful table of food." I've changed the word huge I've changed the word enormous for huge. And I've changed the word gigantic for massive. And I've changed the word dug in to gobbled it up. Same meanings, but just different words. So can you have a go today in your books at rewriting the words that are on this page? See if you can write them out as sentences, but change as many of the words as you can. Now, if you need a little bit more support with this, you can select a word from the text, just one word, and record it in your books. And try and write another word next to it with a similar meaning. Try and use a phonic mat to support you with this rather than asking a grown-up to write it for you. Now, if you'd like to have a go at flying high, I want to know if you can explain which words you have changed and how the new words are similar. You can do this verbally by explaining your word choices to an adult or send in a video of you explaining your word choices. Okay, hopefully you paused the video and now you've come back and it's our reflection time. So what was our walk today? Our job was to discuss word meanings, linking them to prior knowledge. Have you been successful? Can you identify words in a text and explain their meaning? Can you change and replace a word for another word with a similar meaning? Can you explain your reasons for choosing a particular word? If you can say yes to any of these, then you have been successful. Please share some of your work by emailing it to us. We hope you've enjoyed your English learning for today. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you again really soon with some more learning. Bye.